Matt Armstrong just found something inside his wrecked Bugatti Chiron that Bugatti probably hoped would stay buried forever, and the implications reach far beyond one crashed hypercar sitting in a Miami workshop. What started as an ambitious automotive repair project has turned into something that questions the entire relationship between luxury vehicle manufacturers and the people who own their cars. The teardown everyone said couldn't happen is finished. The Chiron sits split down the middle in two halves, a procedure Bugatti maintained was impossible outside their French factory, now completed by a small team working in an independent facility with nothing but skill and refusal to accept the word impossible. Armstrong moved past the proving phase and shifted into reconstruction, which carries a different kind of pressure because tearing something apart is always easier than putting it back together better than it was before. His to-do list reads like a manufacturing challenge most workshops wouldn't touch. The gearbox mounting bracket needs replacement. The aluminum front structure requires complete fabrication from raw materials. 4 radiators need repair, and every component Bugatti refuses to sell has to come from independent channels through sourcing, reverse engineering, or custom fabrication. On top of baseline restoration, the current owner wants upgrades, starting with an exhaust system that lets the W16 engine sound like it actually has 16 cylinders instead of the muted tone Bugatti engineered for regulatory compliance and mass market appeal. The entire rear exhaust assembly came off after pulling the rear subframe, disconnecting fuse boards, and carefully separating the massive titanium system from the car's body. Armstrong's father, Tony, handled the physical work while Matt focused on video editing, which shows how lean this operation runs and how much gets accomplished with family labor instead of dealership overhead. Valvetronic in Austin will scan the original exhaust and fabricate something completely custom, maintaining the primary catalytic converters for emissions compliance while removing the secondary cats that strangle airflow and kill the engine note. This modification will never come from Bugatti because it doesn't fit their brand positioning, but it transforms this rebuild from restoration into reimagination. Custom wheels are being designed using 3-dimensional scanning technology because the tolerances around those enormous brake calipers measure in millimeters, and getting fitment wrong creates functional problems beyond aesthetics. The scanning process eliminates guesswork that destroys expensive wheel projects and ensures perfect clearance without trial and error. The gearbox mounting bracket is where this story turns from impressive to uncomfortable. This cast aluminum component connects the engine to the transmission and sits deep in the rear of the car, making it one of the last places anyone checks after a front-end collision. Armstrong had what he calls a brainwave when he started asking how Bugatti's insurance inspectors knew to look there in the first place. The car hit from the front, damage concentrated forward. Yet Bugatti's team removed all the undertrays and found a cracked bracket buried at the back of the drivetrain without any obvious reason to suspect problems in that location. Armstrong's theory makes uncomfortable sense. Bugatti France may have called their American inspection team and specifically directed them to check that bracket because they already knew it fails in certain crash scenarios. The component sits in the load path between engine and transmission, which means frontal impact energy transfers through the drivetrain and concentrates stress exactly where that bracket lives. If Bugatti engineering has seen this failure mode before, they know where to look, they know what it looks like, and they know it's predictable. This reframes the entire write-off decision. A sacrificial component that breaks before transmitting destructive force into more expensive drivetrain elements is actually smart automotive engineering, the kind of controlled failure mode that protects critical systems by absorbing energy in a replaceable part. The bracket cracks so the transmission doesn't grenade itself. Except if Bugatti knows this component fails predictably, knows how to identify the damage, and knows it can be replaced, the question becomes why they declared the car unrepairable and why they refused to sell the replacement bracket to independent builders. The answer comes down to precedent and control. Once insurance companies and independent workshops understand that crashed Chirons can return to service by replacing a known failure component, more wrecked cars stay on the road instead of getting totaled. That affects resale values, brand exclusivity, and Bugatti's narrative control over their vehicles. The story that a crashed Chiron represents irreparable tragedy rather than a solvable engineering problem. Armstrong's discovery suggests the write-off was never about damage that couldn't be fixed, but about maintaining a story, and he's dismantling that story one fabricated component at a time. Armstrong isn't just replacing the broken bracket, he's improving it beyond factory specification. The damaged component got three-dimensional scanned with professional equipment to create a computer-aided design model that could be analyzed and optimized instead of simply replicated. The original part uses cast aluminum, and casting as a manufacturing process creates inherent constraints. Designers working with casting need uniform wall thickness throughout the component to control shrinkage during cooling, which forces compromises that put material where the process demands it instead of where stress analysis says it belongs. The result is components heavier than necessary in some areas and potentially thinner than ideal in others, not because Bugatti's engineers lack skill, but because the manufacturing method limited their options. The CNC machined replacement Armstrong is having fabricated doesn't carry those limitations. Material can be placed precisely where load analysis demands it. Wall thicknesses can vary based on stress requirements instead of manufacturing constraints, and the final component will be stronger than what Bugatti originally installed while weighing less. The cost from Bugatti for that bracket, if they would even sell it, runs tens of thousands of pounds. The CNC version costs a fraction of that and outperforms the original, which strikes at the heart of why manufacturers want to control who can repair their cars, because independent builders aren't just replicating factory parts anymore, they're improving them. 4 radiators took damage in the crash, including the air conditioning condenser. Armstrong transported them back to the UK for assessment, and the prognosis came back more optimistic than expected. One radiator has a significant hole, another shows heavy deformation, but the specialist's reaction was unhurried and unimpressed by the challenge. These aren't exotic Bugatti-only components requiring factory replacement, but high-performance radiators any skilled shop can repair or fabricate. The technical challenge lies in recreating exact positions of mounting points, hose connections, and brackets. But even that problem gets solved by measuring the undamaged radiator and fabricating new end tanks with identical positioning. Armstrong is transporting components between the UK and Miami in suitcases. Unglamorous and logistically awkward, but completely effective. Everything moves through channels Bugatti can neither control nor block. The rebuild entered its fabrication phase with teardown complete, damage fully assessed, and solutions being engineered and built. Custom exhaust fabrication is happening in Texas. The gearbox bracket is being CNC machined to improved specifications. 4 radiators are under repair in the UK, and custom wheels are being designed with precision scanning to ensure perfect fitment. One detail says more about Armstrong's confidence than anything else. He's considering buying the car from the current owner once the rebuild finishes, looking at selling parts of his UK collection to raise funds because he wants to own the result. Think about what that means. Armstrong is so confident in a car the manufacturer declared unrepairable, a car he personally rebuilt from a split chassis that he wants to keep it. He's not building someone else's car back to factory specification and handing it over, but building the car he wants to own to his own specification, better than it left the factory. Along the way, he may have uncovered proof that the write-off was never about the damage, that the gearbox bracket failure was known, that the car could always have been fixed, and that Bugatti's silence was never about protecting customers, but about protecting the story. That story is being rewritten one CNC part, one custom exhaust, one repaired radiator at a time.